Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Pitch Perfect. This is our fourth one of 2024, which means it is our last Pitch Perfect of the year. So thank you for joining us. Tonight we will go over the 3-minute pitch. For those that don't know, I am Tim Ryan. I am, I guess, the organizer, if you will, for Start Peninsula. Have been since its inception 12 or so years ago. Thank you to our host localities, Newport News, along with the city of Hampton, York County, city of Williamsburg, Poquoson, Williamsburg. Did I miss any, Gary?
James City County.
James City County. We couldn't do it without all the peninsula localities. Thank you for supporting us and supporting the entrepreneurs. Tonight, we're going to go over the 3-minute pitch. And helping me and do so is Gary Plaag. Gary and I have been doing this for quite some time. I take care of the business side. Gary takes care of the performance side. Gary, do you mind introducing yourself,
Yeah, my name is
please?
Gary Plaag. I have it's a coaching business. It's really a communication consulting business. And I've been doing that for about 26 years. And it started, and pretty much a lot of it now even is still helping people with presentations, the way that they communicate their ideas, and helping them to be comfortable doing that, and then helping them to organize their materials so that they have the impact that they want them to have. So happy to be part of this. As Tim said, we've been working together for a lot of years doing this, and really enjoy helping people to find their voice and be able to do these pitch things in a way that's really rewarding for them.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we have helped people raise many millions of dollars in funding.
Yep.
And it's always a pleasure working with Gary. I appreciate your insight and what we're able to do through this pitch perfect process is pretty special to see. So we can dive in. All right. So the purpose here, the 3-minute pitch, the way we're going to break everything down is we will talk about the elements of the pitch and and if there's any questions or if you want feedback with your pitch along the way, we'll be happy to address those. But wait until the end of this presentation. I think that we'll cover a lot of the questions that are asked. So let's just dive in. We're going to go ahead and we will put 3 minutes on the clock. And let's go. So let's break down the 3-minute pitch. A lot of people will just dive in and they just want to, I guess, for lack of better terms, just throw up on their slides and just get into all the everything and anything they can think of to try to resonate with whoever may be in the audience. But we're going to go about this a different way. We're going to break things down in a logical sense. And by doing so, the first thing we want to do is we want to get the person's attention. And just for argument's sake, take 10 seconds to do this. This is not any scientific method. If you can do it in 5, then that's great. Then we can save 5 seconds for somewhere else. But just as a general guideline, and even if you don't have your pitch prepared, just take a piece of paper, take your pen or pencil, and just start writing some things down. This will serve as your outline. And then when we're done, you can just read out your outline, and then you can see how long that takes, and you'll get a good idea of how quick 3 minutes really is. So the attention getter is 10 seconds. Then we're going to talk about the problem or the opportunity for those that are more optimistic-minded people. So 50 seconds to do that. Super easy to talk about the problem because typically you're very passionate about it. It may be something that triggers you. It's a pain point. People want it solved. And people can drone on and on and on and on about a problem. That is a caution for you because typically people will go long on the problem. We've identified that problem. We're going to get into the solution. We're going to talk about that for about 50 seconds. And what we're going to do is we're going to dive into all of these things here in a little bit more detail. But this is just a general outline for you. Now that we have everybody's attention, we can get into your name, 10 seconds, company one-liner. This is, I am Tim Ryan. I am the executive director of Innovate Hampton Roads, where we consolidate, celebrate entrepreneurial and innovation efforts across Hampton Roads. This is something that is really, really quick, simple. People understand it, how they're going to remember you. Then we're going to talk about the target market. Who is this that you're trying to sell this product or service to? That will be 50 seconds. And then you have your close. That's 10 seconds. And again, we'll get into that. It could be your company one-liner again. It could be an area of where you need assistance. But when you tally all that stuff up, that is your 3 minutes. So it's a lot of stuff to talk about. It's not a lot of time, and you really have to be pretty detailed. Oh, and by the way, if the judges, when you participate in Start Peninsula, they have a rubric. And on that rubric, there are only 4 things. Any guesses on what they are? It's the problem, it's the solution, it's the target market, and it's
Oh, the performance.
your performance. So those are the 4 things. So there's no secrets here. You're going to need this for the rest of the time that you're a founder in your startup. Those are the things that you need to focus on. Gary and I were going to help you with all 4 of those things, and you're going to do really, really well. Historically speaking, 2 of the 3 people that make it in the top 3 all move on, all participated in Pitch Perfect. And then of the in next month, or I guess in November, we'll have the championship pitch. That is the top 12 pitchers for all of 2024. And with that, eight or nine of the people in that top 12 all went through Pitch Perfect. And typically 2 of those 3 winners also attended Pitch Perfect as well. So you don't have to listen to what we have to say, but Gary and I have a pretty good idea of what needs to happen and what you need to do to prepare to find success. You good on your end, Gary?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Let's
Yep.
dive into this stuff a little bit deeper.
And I think I think just point out for this, the order in which things go is probably prescriptive, but the amount of time that you spend on each one is more descriptive, meaning that it might be, I think Tim said this, it might be longer or shorter on various things, but you want to go in this order, but you might assign different values of time that you spend on them, depending on how complicated your issue is. So if that makes sense, that it's prescriptive in the order that you're going to put these in, but descriptive in the amount of time.
Yep. Yeah, and then I don't want to jump too far
So what's the
ahead.
secret sauce, Tim?
Well, the secret sauce, this is a little added bonus of that we added into this, is that ultimately what we want to go for is we want to go for this thing called the flywheel. And these are the 3 things that you're going to need in order to be successful. And the first thing that you're going to need is a product. You need to be able to offer your customers some sort of a product or a service. It may seem super obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people are like, oh, I don't have a product yet. You need that. You need or a minimal viable product. You need something. You need to have a team. Understandable. That might be just you right now. And the goal is to fill out that team. And then you need customers. And again, you may not have those just yet. This is a platform to validate that business idea. But just keep in mind that these are the things that you ultimately want to go for. And then what happens when you have all those 3 things is that you have growth. And what I mean by that is you create this flywheel. So if you have a great team, or they produce a great product, the product satisfies the customers generate revenue, then you can put that money back into your product and team, and then your product gets better, and then you generate more revenue, and then you have this flywheel that continues to go around and around and around. So we want you to have that in the back of your mind. Work towards those 3 things. Without that, it's just an idea. And Gary, how much are ideas worth?
Well, they're like not worth very much.
No, like 0.
Yeah, until they become a something, they're not.
That's right.
Yeah.
So these are the once you have those 3 things, you have a valid idea. Validated ideas is where the money is. So let's get into the problem. And some things to consider regarding the problem is that 50 seconds, don't go long. Just as I said, people are super passionate about about what the problem is, and they drone on and on and on. And you should practice enough that you kind of have an internal clock that you know how long 50 seconds is. Gary and I have been doing this long enough that we know how long 50 seconds is. And we can know right away if someone's going to run out of time because they've gone into their problem. one of the areas that why people go into their problem is that like they want to connect with anybody and everybody in their audience. They want to connect with the mothers, they want to connect with the fathers and the aunts and the uncles and the daycare providers, to hit on every person that may possibly suffer from this problem. Pick one and focus on that problem set. Don't hedge. Pick one, the biggest one that has the most impact, that feels the most pain, and then stick to that. Don't go long. With that, people are visual learners. And what we mean by that, this is where the performance comes into play. And you want to tell a story. You want to tell the story about, I want to introduce you to Joshua. Joshua experiences this pain point and he wants to do anything he possibly can to satisfy that pain point. Let me introduce you to, and then so it's just you tell that story, and then as you're talking about that problem, then people identify that and they're like, oh, I get that. That's me. I totally feel that same thing. And yes, I want a solution for that. What can it possibly be? And then you get into it. So people are visual learners and they're going to remember that.
And again, that story cannot be really long. You know, humans like stories. That's how we passed information for thousands of years, is from story. We just did it through stories. People were illiterate and they couldn't read, and we didn't write things down necessarily or whatever. So the storytellers are the ones that pass the information on. So we're kind of wired as humans to listen to stories, and we have an empathic response to them usually, and or a sympathetic response. And so we're connected to the story. We like it.
Yeah.
And we like to feel like, oh wow, that seems familiar to me. I
Doesn't
know.
that also have something to do with the crocodile brain as well? It makes people's guards go down and
Yeah,
not.
a reptilian brain, if you believe in evolution. Yeah. 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 So as you say, Tim, tell a story. And then I think it's important also, in that story, that you indicate how big this problem is, right? It may not be of value to anyone except you. And so then no one's gonna buy the solution, if you will, if they don't feel like the problem's big enough. Like, why are
Yeah.
you spending time on that? So
Yep. And so again, we're telling a story and stick to that story. And like that, it just round everything out in terms of what happens when Joshua has a solution. His pain point is then gone and he lives happily ever after. And then when we get into the market size, guess what? The market, Joshua is not alone. He's got 200 million other people that have this exact same pain point that wants to be solved. And of those 200 million people, these are the people, this is the audience that we're going after first. So we'll get that. That's into the marketing aspect of it. But by doing that, you're talking about how big the problem is. So we want to make sure that there is a market that's big enough that is worth satisfying, or investors want to invest in that problem because it's such a big problem that they know there's going to be a return for the money that they invest into you and into your company. So a lot to talk about when it comes to the problem. Same holds true for the solution. With the solution, we're going to talk about the idea and the innovation behind it, and some things to consider there is going to be, make sure that you realize that your audience does not know you. So many people are like, they're so close to the trees that they don't see the forest. You have to assume and realize that they don't know you. So you have to start from the very, very beginning. You can't start at second base to try to save time. You have to start from the very beginning. And this holds true. Like this has been put in because this is feedback from the judges. The judges are like, I just didn't get it. They started too late, and I could not catch up because I didn't understand what the problem was, and then therefore the solution either.
I think it's important too to remember that when Tim and I watched some of these, especially years ago, before people were better skilled at it, they would spend a long time on a solution, but they never identified what the problem is. So they just have a solution looking for a problem. And that's not interesting to anybody. So that's why we harp on identifying what the problem is so that whatever solution you have makes sense. Instead of I'm solving something that doesn't really have a problem because it's cool. Okay, well, I only want to know if you're solving something.
That's right. So again, is the problem big enough? So, we hinted on that with the problem, that there's 200 million other people that have this problem. Is the problem big enough? We were on a show that this thing is worth solving. Then you're talking about your solution. How are you different? How are you better? And keep that focus on you. This is not like, oh, we're better than Google. Google sucks. Google doesn't do this. Google doesn't do that. And Google steals all your privacy. Well, so now you're like, it's not a good look. Keep the focus on you. You don't know who you're offending. You don't know what Google loyalist there might be that's out there. Yeah, just keep the we do that. We have an innovative solution that we do this. Privacy is number one. We don't, any information is stored with us externally. It's not shared. We don't sell it, yada, yada, yada. This is how we do it. And we do it 10 times better than anybody out there on the market. And the reason 10 times is on there is because in order to change any customer's behavior, your solution needs to be 10 times better than what the current status quo is. That's just how it is. I mean, that's just a proven thing. It has to be 10 times better. And the example that Gary and I use is you look at the market share that Tesla has on the electric vehicle industry, and that's because when Tesla started, they knew the car needed to be 10 times better than a traditional gas car. So there's no maintenance. It's cheaper than gas. It's got software updates that are installable. The list goes on and on and on, so that the car is like it's a no-brainer. The fact of it's just easier to maintain and better owner experience. Uber is the same way. You push a button, a car comes. You don't have to worry about paying. You don't have to worry about tipping. You don't have to worry about finding a taxi. It's just 10 times better, and that is what changes customer behavior. Yeah, anything you want to add there, Gary?
No, I think it's going well. I just want to let you guys know that we're in the middle of like really bad thunderstorms, so I'm keeping myself on mute because they're actually rattling my house, and so if I lose power, I'll come back. But that's why I have it on mute.
Okay. Well, then the secret phrase for the people watching the replay is thunder and lightning. Reply back to this thunder and lightning. Show that you watched this recording. You'll get credit for attending, and we'll go from there. All right. So part of that solution to include and often overlooked, and that's part of the flywheel, is the team. We want to make sure that we touch base on the team, and some things to consider there is that this is your time to showcase your strengths. And so maybe, hey, I am the founder, I am the CEO of this team. And the reason that I formed this company is because I suffer from this problem. I deal with this every single day, and there is no one solving this problem. So I know in order for this problem to be solved, I have to be the one to do it. That's super powerful, especially, I mean, like that's passion that can come out of you that you cannot fake. So showcase your strengths and talking about why you are the one to solve this. And if you're a second time founder, that's awesome. If you're a third time founder, that's awesome too. Because the things that you learned after trying the first time, or the things that you learned after trying the second time, you are now a seasoned founder, and you should not make the same mistakes twice. So leverage that as a strength. How many years of experience do you have? Is there any patents? What logos, what companies did you all work for beforehand? But your team is the one to make this thing a reality, and investors and people bet on the jockey, not the horse. So it's the team that's going to be the one that brings this through. Some crazy things that we have seen along the way, just about as a quick aside, or to further emphasize this, we've seen pitches where like someone would be like, "Oh yeah," and we have the only person in the industry that has experience in this, and they have like multiple patents in this, and it's just like, oh, that would have been that, and that came out in the Q&A, and it's like, that would have been pretty helpful if that was in the pitch. Yeah, but you'd be amazed at some of the stuff that we've seen along the way.
I think people tend to do that anyway. I remember helping a young person with a job interview. This is probably 20 some years ago. And we did a practice interview and he just told me the things that were on his resume. And then I asked him about something that wasn't on his resume. And he said, I was a child actor on television. And I was like, why would that not be on your resume? Like, why wouldn't you tell us that? And well, I didn't want to be, ostentatious about my experience. Thinking, well, it would have been a done deal if you just told us. Like, we could have asked different questions. And so when you say who's on your team, it gives the judges a chance in Q&A to ask you even more in-depth questions that
Yeah.
might help you to win.
And I get
So
it. People are
yeah,
super humble. I'm a humble person too, but this is your time not to be humble. I mean, like
exactly.
I was on a call today with someone going over their pitch deck, and they're like, "Yeah, and here's my team slide, humble brag, da da da," and totally glossed over everything. I was like, "No, dude, like this is you really need to like dig in on this and show logos and like this is talking about like cybersecurity type stuff, and it's like if you're from the DoD and like cybersecurity is really really important, yeah, I'm sure that there's some things that you can include from your history that shows that yeah, I'm the person to solve this problem. I have the expertise and experience to ensure that I can protect your stuff as well. All right, so we've talked about the problem, we've talked about the solution. Now we're going to get into the marketability. And the marketability, that's what we're talking about your customer, things to consider there. You need to know who your customer is. Identify that customer. Your customer give you the answer to this quiz. It can't be everybody. Because if you try to, if you want it to be everybody, yep. Um, um, Gosh, I just blanked out on what's the water that they so water in a can that they sell at all the rock shows.
Not Jason Manoa or whatever,
No,
that
no,
water.
Liquid Death.
Uh,
Yeah, so Liquid Death, I mean,
oh yeah,
like,
Liquid Death. Yeah.
yeah, they purposely went out and took the most boring product to see if they could build a business around it. And like identifying your customer, they knew that it was like, okay, we're going to go after younger people that are like college age, that like to, that they're in the party scene, but they don't necessarily want to be drinking, but they want to be able to hold a can that looks like they're drinking something and fit in with everybody else and not be judged. And, so it's just like, yep, everybody drinks water, but they knew exactly who they wanted to target and identified their customer, and that's who they marketed to. And now, like, it's probably one of the most successful startup stories that we've seen in the last several years, just and what they were able to do. And I look at like the returns that they have and the valuation of that company. And me, like I've invested in many companies. I would have passed. I would have 100% passed on that company. Like, yeah, our idea is we're going to put water in a can and we're going to sell it for like 3 times the amount of other water, and we're going to sell it at concert venues so the kids can drink it, and the kids have no money either. I mean, it's like, but they did it, and they did it really, really well. So I mean, but they knew their customer, um, and they demonstrated that understanding of the market. They knew that's what kids were looking for. They wanted to fit in and not necessarily drink, but they understood the market. The same holds true. Like if you're looking to get um, a repair done for your car or for your home, you're not going to want to hire someone like, yeah, I've not done this before, but I think I got a pretty basic understanding of how this thingamabob works. I'll go ahead and install it, no problem at all. You want someone that really understands what it is that they're going to be doing for you. So you, as the founder of your company, you need to show that you have an understanding of, yep, I know the problem, I've got the solution. I am just the person that you're looking for to make all your pain points go away. So you need to know, if I was to give you a blank check or Gary was to give you a blank check to market too, you need to know who that is that you want to go after. So
That's why I drink Liquid Death, is
that's
because
right.
it appeals to me and I can feel like I'm a college kid. So that's why I drink it.
Rocking
What
your
am I doing?
devil
Do I
horn.
do I
Yeah.
look like a college kid? Am I working it out?
But I want you to focus really, really small. And then when you start with a super small, then I want you to go even smaller, but start very, very, very focused. And then once you get that point that you can expand, then you can go ahead and expand. You can't do too much too fast. Um, And then how are you delighting customers? If you happen to have customers right now, that's awesome. How are you delighting them? What's the feedback that you received? Maybe you're just doing customer discovery right now. Of the people that you talk to, what have they said about the problem that they're experiencing, and what are they willing to do to solve that problem? How are they currently solving that problem? How are you currently solving that problem? But talking about how many people you've talked to and how you're delighting them, or will be delighting them in the future, really, really important stuff. And that is a classic judge question. If you talk to any people, if so, how many and what did they say? What was their feedback?
Yeah, because again, they want to know, have you tested the market? Is it a problem worth focusing on?
Yep.
And it's really gotta be more than I talked to my mom and dad and my three cousins, and they think it's a great idea. I think I shared in the last one of these, I read somewhere about people who are trying to make the next best pillow. And they went and did a focus group testing by standing at a Bed Bath and Beyond in the pillow section and asking people what they were looking for in a pillow. And, and maybe they talked to 200 people. Well, that's better than just asking your folks, and we found out that 3/4 of those 200 people or 500 people were looking for this in a pillow. Okay, good to know. At least
Gary, do you like flat or fluffy?
well, yeah, that's the question. Are you asking me?
Yeah.
That's kind of personal. I feel offended that you asked me that.
I guess we'll never know.
We'll never know. It'll be a secret.
All right. Well, we've talked about all that, but one of the things you need to make sure that you're able to do is execute. Execution is key, and without that, you really don't have anything to offer, and you have no business. So, what is your why? Your why is going to be really, really powerful. And again, like if you suffer from that problem and no one else is solving that problem, and you're the one that has solving it for yourself, it's called eating your own dog food. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful why. So we owe every pitch perfect. We talk about the highs are high, the lows are low. The lows, yeah, when you wake up in the morning, the thing that's going to get you out of bed is your why. Yeah, it's super easy to get up in the morning when life is great, but when you get kicked in the gut or punched in the face, your why is what's going to get you out of bed.
Yeah, when you call that why is your passion or your heart? Is it what's driving you, as Tim says, even when things are bad? Is that the thing that keeps you going? And we've heard stories of people that were founders of things that, they were sleeping in the backseat of their car Thursday, wondering if they were going to be able to make payroll on Friday. And they had people depending on them, and they didn't have an apartment anymore. They were just sleeping in a car and trying to save money and be able to make the business work. And that's evidence of your passion, your heart, your why, how committed a commitment you have to it. Not just, oh, it's a great idea, but am I really committed?
Yeah. That reminds me of you remember Deshaun, Body by D?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he lived in his gym,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very vocal about that, and it's like easy for them to now to be like, oh yeah, he was small business of the year for York County or whatever, a couple of years ago. But it's like people forget that he lived in his gym and did not have a home in order to make that work.
Yeah.
So that was his why.
Yep. Yep.
How are you going to make this a reality? Everybody talks about what they want the end goal to be. And like the reason that is a body of a Model S, Tesla Model S that you're looking at on the screen. And it's like, so Elon knew when Tesla first started, they were going to start with the Model S, and they're going to use that money to be able to reinvest it into the company to eventually get to the Model 3 and the Model Y, which would be vehicles that everybody could afford. And now the Model Y is the number one selling vehicle worldwide, gas or electric. So like that's where he knew where he wanted to go, but he had to start somewhere, and that's how he was able to make it a reality. So how are you going to be able to make it a reality? What are you going to do today so that you can get the next step to where you want to be tomorrow?
Hey, Tim, why is there no grease or oil on the floor in that manufacturing facility? Oh, because Teslas don't have that.
That's
Oh,
right. Uh, and I mentioned this before, investors invest in the people, not the idea. So because an idea is just an idea until it's executed upon. Once it's and the people are going to make that execution happen. So you need to be that person, and that passion needs to come out like, yep, this they're going to make it happen. I know they're going to make it happen one way or another. And that's just something that can't be faked. So, and I've already mentioned this a couple times, a validated idea is greater than just an idea. Ideas are worth nothing. Validated ideas is everything. Basic needs. This is a platform to validate your business idea. We know that you're not going to have a ton. You don't need to have revenue. You don't need to have customers. Therefore, you're not going to have everything that you need. So, some basic needs, some things to consider here. This is your time that you need to be vulnerable in the sense of, hey, I need help. I've never been a CEO before. I don't know what I don't know. I need to round out my management team so that they can help me out. Leverage that vulnerability and use that as a strength, not a weakness. So it's a really, some people look at this as really difficult to juggle because they're like, I need to show people that I'm a founder, that I'm competent, that I can right this ship in the stormiest of seas. Well, it's okay not to know everything. And the thing is that everybody's willing to help you, but if you do not share with people what you need help with, then they don't know how they can help you. So you have to lean into that. And at the end of the day, you are the CEO, you're the founder of the company, and you have ultimate decision-making authority. But like, tell people what you need help with. Hey, I need someone that can write software code. I've never done that before. I've heard horror stories about outsourcing it to India or Ukraine or pick a country. So I need some help, someone to help me make this decision. People will be willing to. People are there to help you. So take advantage of that.
and I think that's a human trait that I see in people every day, even in my circle of acquaintances, is that they they feel like it's a weakness to say that they need something, and they know that they need it, but they think that it's just no. I mean, as you say, the vulnerability to have the courage to be able to say, I need help, is actually a strength, because most people will just shy away and the idea will die and it will never happen because they need help. I remember when I was leaving corporate America 26 years ago to start my business when there was no help. It was the wild, wild west, and you just did it. And a friend of mine said, tell people what you need and they will help you. And that was the best advice I ever got. Because once I started telling people what I needed to make this work, they actually opened their hearts and helped me. But if they did, they can't help you if they don't know what you need. It would be insulting for them to assume what you need and then tell you what they were willing to give you. But if you just say, I need help with these things, then if they can help you, they will. I think we run to the idea that if I say I need help, it means I'm weak and I haven't thought this through. Well, no, you've actually thought it through way more by identifying what you do well and what you need help with. So, I say, yeah, exactly what you said, Tim. Just tell people what you need.
And it's another popular judge question. What do you need to make this business successful?
Yeah.
And by knowing what you need and offsetting your weakness with other people's strengths, that is leadership.
And I think sometimes people get into analysis paralysis because they have a perfectionistic idea of, I'm not going to do this until everything's perfect. And I I say that perfectionism is the enemy of good enough. It's probably good enough for you to start getting some help on it. But if you wait until it's perfect, then you're never going to take any action. You're never going to move on it. And so you'll just what we call analysis paralysis, stuck in spinning around and ruminating, and it never amounts to anything. And then 20 years later, you say, gosh, I really wanted to start that business and I never did. And I really wish I had. I remember the guy at the gym used to tell me, my trainer used to say, a year from now, you'll wish you started today. And so just start telling people what you need today. And a year from now, you go, wow, look how much further I am just because I said what I need.
Yeah, it's and I think that as you're talking about this, Gary, that's one of the things that I guess that makes this pitch perfect so special. Is it like when people want to do their practice pitch, we all get the fact that, yeah, it's going to be pretty rough. It's going to be raw. It's not going to be polished. But they have the courage. They say it. They go way long. They stumble on their words, and it's okay. We all help you improve and think about things to consider adding, taking away, or a different way of thinking it. So then the next time they are so much further along than if they didn't have the courage to practice it
Yep.
tonight.
I mean, I can see just looking at Joshua in the picture here, I can see that he is ready. When we're done with this, he's ready to go out on a limb and just do it. Am I right?
I see it.
Oh, he says, yeah. He says he's ready to go. Perfect. That was a 10 finger. I'm ready to go.
That's right.
I love it.
All right. So some
The
secret
secret sauce on
sauce.
this, Tim.
Yeah. So this is just some more things to keep in the back of your mind. And it's just like we talk about the problem because if there is no problem, then there is no need. So that's why you have to talk about the problem. And if you don't talk about the solution, then you don't have a product. So that's why we talk about the solution. The next thing we talk about is the market. So if you don't have a market, then you don't have any way of there's no growth involved with that. So those are the things we are evaluating: problem, solution, market. No traction. That means what an investor hears when they don't talk about traction, that means there's no customers. So again, that's why we had that slide in there talking about do you have any customers? How are you delighting them? If you're getting customer validation, how many have you talked to? What was the feedback? So just talking about, even if it's the earliest stages of traction, talking about that so that we know that there's customers just around the corner. No model, no money. That's looking ahead a little bit, but like another really popular question amongst the judges, how do you make money? And you don't have to have everything tied up, I's dotted, T's crossed. This is how much it's going to cost. It could be like right now we're exploring a subscription model service. We're still working on the price. We don't know, we're dialing that in yet, but we're thinking that a subscription model is where we're going to go. I mean, but just having some idea how you're going to make money, because again, another popular question amongst the judges, how do you make money? Fits kind of outside the scope of what the rubric says, but it's just a popular question. So be prepared. No team, no execution. So you want to talk about your team. No performance. No one's going to have a memory that you did it whatsoever. You're going to blend in with everybody else. They're just going to, it's like Charlie Brown telephone, wah, 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 for 3 minutes. And there's going to be no memory of it. But you tell that story, you have that performance, and people are going to remember it. I remember pitches from 10 years ago, the people that really, really performed well.
And unfortunately, we remember the ones that didn't perform very well. And there are numerous ones that
Oh gosh.
yeah, there's some spooky stuff which is not for the video, but oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh boy. All right, Gary.
Yeah,
Speaking
so
of performing
we have
well,
what's that?
speaking of performing well, how do we
Yeah, these are
perform
things that
well?
we've learned over time that I tell people. So the first thing is that they'll often say, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And somebody will answer practice, practice, practice. And because if you want to play the violin at Carnegie Hall, then you better have practiced the violin a lot. And the same thing goes here, is practice the pitch. And the thing that one of the biggest errors they do is that they practice the words on a piece of paper or on their screen, and they never say the words. They just read the words, and then they're not used to listening to them say what it is that they're talking about. And the first time they're hearing themselves is actually at the pitch. So I say, if you're going to practice with a video. You can set yourself up your own Zoom your Zoom meeting and just pitch to yourself. And then you can record it and go back and watch it. I highly recommend that, or set your phone up and record yourself, video and audio, watch it, listen to it. You'll be amazed at things that you say that you don't even realize you say when you play it back and listen to it. So practicing, really important. Next thing is that you don't want to start with a question because it wastes time. You could start with something like, maybe just start with a story, and it's a brief story, or a potential imagine this kind of a thing, but not, how many of you have ever done whatever? You don't want to do that because no one's going to respond anyway, and you're just wasting your time. In this timed event, you only got 3 minutes. So you don't want to, and as you know from the rubric, we had about 10 seconds for that. So by the time you ask the question, you've used up 6 of your seconds. And that's crazy. So don't ask question at the beginning. Next thing, they don't care what your name is until they have a reason to care. So I would introduce myself a little bit later, once you've got them hooked and once they know what the problem is. And then you could maybe introduce yourself then and say, my name is so-and-so and blah, 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 blah. And my solution to the problem I've just described is this. And you go on with your solution. Another thing that's critical is, as you start preparing and practicing and writing a script that you think you're gonna, don't memorize it, but you think you're gonna use, and I wouldn't read it either, because we can tell if you're reading, but I would know it well enough that you can have bullet points that lead you to the next thing, and you know what you're going to be talking about. And so when you do that, you're going to, when you start writing out almost a full sentence outline for what you think you're going to say, you need to delete things that are not relevant to your story. And a friend of mine used to be he was a speech writer for a senator. And when I was teaching at William & Mary, he would come and say, he would be a guest speaker, and he would say, you have to be willing to kill your darlings. You have to, you think you've written really great stuff, and then you got to be willing to kill it because it's not relevant. It's not helpful. Even though you think it's clever, not helpful. So the only way you know that it's irrelevant is by practicing and listening to it and watching yourself do it and go, why did I say that? It has nothing to do with this. It's irrelevant to the story. Next thing Tim has said before, it's a story and it's a performance. And you want to be sure that what you look like when you're telling the story is as effective as the story itself is, and what your whole performance is. For every slide, you want to ask yourself, is it enhancing the story or is it detracting from the story? And so sometimes you feel like, sometimes we'll see in the corporate world, they'll say, you have 5 minutes for your presentation on this thing at our plant, and you can only use 4 slides. So people need 20 slides to describe the process at this factory. And so what are they forced to do then? They cram 20 slides of data into 4. And now we have charts that nobody can read. It's horrible. So if you, in your story, if you can, this isn't on the slide, but in your deck, if you can use a graph or a picture of something that will enhance what you're talking about while you're talking about it, that would be great. Remember that people have a choice of listening to you or reading what's on the slide. So if you have too much stuff on the slide, they're gonna want to read it. So, and if they're given the choice of listening to you or reading, they're gonna read. So full sentences on slides, not helpful. Bullet points on slides, really helpful. I instruct people to use a 6x6 rule, not more than 6 lines on a slide, not more than 6 words on a line, on a bullet point. And another thing you can do is don't put your whole, if you have, let's say you have 4 bullet points on a slide, don't put them all up at one time. If you're going to talk about each one, then just animate them to appear as you talk about them. And that way you lead your audience to focus on what you're talking about at the time. But if you put all 4 of them up or all 6 of them up, then everybody's going to read ahead and not listen to you. So those are some tricks that I tell my clients when they have presentations and performances where they want people to really remember what they talked about. And that's how I encourage them to build a slide deck and practice what they're doing.
Gary, how long should someone focus their time on making sure their slides are strong or their performance is strong?
So going with my my discouraging of people being perfectionists, it's really easy to spend 95% of your time making sure the slides are right and spending 5% of your time actually delivering the things. So I would say more important to go ahead and get your slide deck done and say you spend 25% of your time on it. And then I would spend maybe 25% of my time making sure that the content of those slides and what I'm going to say is what I want to say. And I would say spend 50% of your time rehearsing. And that doesn't mean just doing the performance. That means doing it, recording it, going back and watching it, which is the worst thing ever, and then making adjustments, and then going back and rehearsing it, and then doing it again, and then going back and watching it and listening to it and coming back. And the other piece that I would say that's really important, which I know you're going to offer everybody, and Tim and I, we love to offer this, that we will help and we will listen to you and we will watch you, we'll look at your deck and we'll let you practice with us. Most people don't take us up on that offer. And so Tim and I are happy to help. We give you our email address and reach out, and every person that, there it is, every person that asks for help, they get it. But most people won't ask for help. And so I say, get your stuff together as quickly as you can. Make sure it's working for you. It's the way you want it to be. And then reach out to me and or Tim and ask for us to give you feedback about your deck, about your performance. If you want to do it for us, we'll record the Zoom thing. We'll bounce off of the Zoom call. We'll come back in after the video recording is rendered and we can watch it together and you can see what you think of it. So does that answer the question about time?
Yeah. One thing too to add, when it comes to practice sharing your slides, sharing your screen, and running through your slides while you're in screen share mode. I mean, like Gary and I, we run the micro pitch competition, but we'll have 10 people pitching and every pitcher does something different. Some people have slides, some people don't. Some people have video, some people don't. But like, unfortunately, the last micro pitch, someone's slides were not advancing and we had no idea. I think Gary and I may have DM'd each other. We're like, I mean,
we knew they weren't advancing. They didn't know they weren't advancing. The pitcher didn't know, and we knew that they weren't advancing, but we can't say anything because that's unfair to everybody else. So we can't give you feedback in the middle.
Yeah. So even practice sharing. I mean, it's.
I would say even practice. Like let's say your computer goes crazy and you're not able to have your slides up and you can't share the slides. I would print the slides off and have them in front of you so that if you're not able to share the slides, you at least have them on a piece of paper and you can go through them and still give your pitch even without the slides, without them being visible. I mean, the example I use sometimes with clients is, imagine your company sends you to Berlin to give a presentation for the whole company and your computer gets smashed and you don't have it on your stuff online and you show up and what are you going to do? Say, oh, my stuff got trashed and I got to go home? No, we just sent you to Berlin. No, you got to do it. It's a multi-million-dollar contract. So you have your paper slides with you, and you go get them, photocopied, and you hand them out to everybody, and you do your pitch. And guess what? You'll probably win the pitch. You'll probably win
Nope.
the business because you were ready.
Show must go on.
Plan for the worst.
That's right.
I'd rather have practiced that than and not need that than not have practiced for it and really need it. And along with that is when you're practicing questions in the Q&A, think about questions that would terrify you. Then, if somebody asked me this, I really would stumble all over myself trying to answer this. Well, why don't we stumble in practice and figure it out, the hard things? The easy things are easy to answer. So really think about the hard stuff. Ask your friends to listen to you, and then say, I want you to ask me hard questions about this idea. I want you to ask me hard things, not easy things, hard things that you think of. Even if it sounds snarky, I want you to be snarky. I want you to ask me hard stuff. And then when they do that and you've practiced, then you can go back to your deck and your presentation, your performance, and say, well, gosh, 4 people have asked me these hard things and they weren't included in my deck. I think I should add something to include them, to include the answer, so that I'm answering it before the judges have that question. Because what might they think then? They might think, wow, this person was really thinking ahead and really has their stuff together, because, and we've heard that a couple of times with judges at these pitch events, where the first one comes in and goes, gosh, you answered almost every question I had when you were going through the pitch. So can you come back to me? And then the next judge will ask their things, and then the first judge will have a question or two. But that can happen if you've really planned it well. It can happen that, sorry, the rain's beating on my window here. It can really help, and the judges get an idea that, wow, this person was really thought through this. This is amazing. And are you going to get scored higher? Probably, if you've done really well with the rubric. And yeah, it can't hurt.
Well, and I think that even happened last micro pitch. I think the Q&A helped someone advance.
Yeah.
And someone knocked out as a result.
And a thing to remember in the Q&A as well is, if you think that you left something out of the pitch and the Q&A happens and you got 2 minutes and they ask you 3 things, because each judge gets to ask you a question, and you write it down and then you answer them all at one time. And let's say you finished answering them and you still have a half a minute left. The unprepared person just sits there in the silence and waits for 30 seconds to go, because Tim's not going to say anything until 2 minutes is up. So if you realize you left something out, or you might write down some extra things that you could add if you don't want to have it in your pitch, but the judges didn't ask either, and you might be able to add some more information. And so I'd have those ready too, and say something that some people often ask me about this thing, which I didn't hear any in the questions, is this thing. And now they got additional information. So that's a good thing. But again, Tim and I can't say that in the competition. In the moment of truth, we can't tell you, oh, you've got 30 more seconds, so go ahead and add some more information. It's unfair to everybody else, so we can't do that. So I tell you that now on the video here, that, think about, if you have extra time, what else would you add? And do it in the Q&A part when that's over.